There is a question so simple it sounds almost stupid. Why did we stop? Not stop moving, not stop building, not stop thinking, but stop changing, stop becoming something new, something different, something more. For 4 billion years, life on this planet never stayed the same. Every creature that ever breathed, every organism that ever fed or fled or reproduced, all of it was constantly shifting, slowly, invisibly, but always forward, always becoming. And then something happened. One species paused, and that species was us. Go back 200,000 years. A creature walks across an open African plain, upright, scanning, calculating. Its brain is large, disproportionately, almost dangerously large for its body. It burns more energy than any organ in the animal kingdom, and yet it persists, because it works. This creature doesn't have claws, doesn't have armor, doesn't have speed. What it has is something stranger, something quieter. It has the ability to imagine things that don't exist yet. It can picture a future, plan for a winter it hasn't seen, fear a predator it can't currently smell. This is not intelligence in the simple sense. This is something closer to a kind of inner theater, a simulation engine running constantly inside the skull. For hundreds of thousands of years, this brain kept changing, growing, rewiring. Each generation slightly sharper, slightly faster, slightly more capable of surviving what the last generation couldn't. Evolution was working, slowly, but working. And then, roughly 10,000 years ago, it essentially stopped. Scientists noticed this pattern and were puzzled. The human genome, when studied across thousands of years, shows something unexpected. The rate of significant evolutionary change, the kind that reshapes cognition, physiology, behavior, dropped dramatically after the agricultural revolution. Not immediately, not completely, but measurably. And the reason, when you understand it, is almost unsettling in how simple it is. Evolution doesn't care about progress. It never did. Evolution only responds to pressure, to threat, to the brutal mathematics of who survives long enough to reproduce and who doesn't. That's the only language natural selection speaks. For hundreds of thousands of years, that pressure was constant and merciless. Famine, predators, climate, disease, tribal warfare. Every generation was a filter. The ones who couldn't adapt didn't continue. But then something changed the rules entirely. Agriculture didn't just change how humans ate, it changed who got to survive. Before farming, survival was a narrow gate. The weak, the sick, the slow, they rarely made it through. Not because anyone chose this, simply because the world was hard and hardness was the selector. Then humans learned to grow food, to store it, to build walls, to protect infants who once would not have survived, to keep alive the elderly, the injured, the vulnerable. Not out of strategy, out of something that may be the most distinctly human trait of all: compassion. And in doing so, unknowingly, quietly, without any awareness of what they were doing, they began to override the very mechanism that had built them. The evolutionary pressure didn't vanish, but it softened, it blurred. The filter became less strict. More variation survived. More genetic possibility was preserved, which sounds like progress, and in many ways it was. But something else was happening beneath the surface. Here is where it gets strange. When evolutionary pressure decreases, a species doesn't just stay the same. It actually begins to accumulate what biologists call genetic load. Mutations that natural selection would have previously eliminated, now surviving from generation to generation. This isn't a flaw in the system. This is the system running exactly as designed. But it means something profound about the human body today. The physical form you carry, your immune responses, your skeletal structure, your neurological baseline, was designed for a world that no longer exists. A world of constant movement. Of intermittent fasting not by choice, but by survival. Of chronic low-grade physical stress that kept certain biological systems sharp. Your body is, in a very real sense, ancient software running on a modern world, and the mismatch is showing. There is a concept in evolutionary biology called the environment of evolutionary adaptedness, the conditions under which a species was shaped, the pressures it was built to navigate. For humans, that environment was radically different from what we inhabit now. We were built for small groups, 20 to 50 people. We were built for movement, not stillness. For seasonal scarcity, not constant abundance. For meaning embedded in survival, not meaning constructed in leisure. And every system in the human body, psychological, neurological, physiological, was calibrated for that world, not this one. This is why so many modern ailments have no ancient equivalent. Not because medicine failed to name them, but because many of them didn't exist in the same form. Chronic anxiety without any predator, depression without any famine, inflammation without any wound. The body is still waiting for threats that never come, and in their absence, it turns inward. But here is the part that most people miss. The question was never really about the body, because the body is the visible story. The one we can measure, scan, and sequence. What is harder to measure, what science is only beginning to understand, is what stopped evolving in the mind. Or more precisely, what the mind stopped needing to do. In ancient environments, cognition was inseparable from consequence. You thought wrong, you died. You misjudged a situation, you were exiled. You failed to read another person accurately, you lost your place in the tribe. Every mental act had weight. Now, most of them don't. We can hold contradictory beliefs without consequence. We can be wrong about almost anything and face no biological cost. We can go entire lifetimes without ever being truly tested by reality. And something about that, something in the architecture of human attention, seems to register the absence. There is a theory, quietly debated among psychologists and anthropologists, that the modern epidemic of meaninglessness, the restlessness, the emptiness, the peculiar suffering of people who have everything and still feel nothing, is not a cultural failure. It is an evolutionary echo, a system built for pressure, operating without any, an engine designed for friction, running on smooth road. Not broken, not sick, simply displaced. The deepest parts of the human brain are still listening for something, still scanning, still waiting for the kind of challenge that once made every hour of existence feel necessary, urgent, alive. And when that challenge doesn't come, when the predators are gone and the harvest is guaranteed, and the walls are high and warm, the brain doesn't simply relax. It starts to invent its own pressure, its own threats, its own trials, its own reasons to feel the weight of being alive. This is not a story about genetics. It is a story about what happens when a species escapes the very conditions that created it. We are, in the truest sense, a creature out of time, carrying ancient wiring through a world moving faster than evolution can follow, not because we failed, but because we succeeded so completely, so rapidly, that the system that built us couldn't keep pace with what we built. The question was never why we stopped evolving. The real question is this: what do you do with a mind designed for a world that no longer exists? What do you do when the engine is still running, but the road has changed completely? There is no clean answer. No resolution the body can offer. No gene that will activate and quietly solve this. There is only the awareness of it. The strange, unsettling, quietly liberating awareness that what you feel, the restlessness, the hunger, the sense that something essential is missing, may not be a flaw in you. It may be the oldest part of you, still awake, still listening, still waiting for the world it was made for.